Hello and welcome to Two Pigs in a Pod, a podcast for the people of Glazing, by the people of Glazing. I am George Lewis, editor at the People in Glazing Society, or more commonly known as PiGs, and I'll be your host. PiGs began in 2004 and has held numerous informal networking events all over the UK and more recently in the USA to bring members of the glazing and fenestration sector together to network, socialise and to be the facilitators to build and cement relationships to push the industry forward to the next level. The glazing sector has an abundance of stories, characters and opinions, and in each episode we'll aim to share some of these stories with the people from throughout the supply chain and beyond, debating the biggest talking points for the industry, while also getting to know them on a more personal level, discussing their careers and what the future of the sector looks like in their eyes. Our guest today is Hannah Miller. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
For those that don't know who you are, can you just explain who you are and what you do?
Yes, so I'm Hannah Miller and I am the Communications and Events Manager at a charity called Crash.
Okay. What is Crash, and can you explain to our listeners what Crash actually is?
Yeah, so Crash it's actually an acronym. It stands for Construction Industry Relief for the Homeless. And we help homelessness charities and hospices with their construction projects. So we can offer professional expertise, products and grants to projects we're working with, and that's only possible thanks to the construction industry.
Okay. And obviously you work with the construction, so how did you first get into it? It's not a subject that everyone gets into, but how did you first get into it?
Yeah, so I started my career, I went to university and I don't do anything to do with my degree now. And then I went into construction recruitment for a couple of years, and it was there that I got to know the sector, mostly main contractors in the industry, and that sparked my interest. So from my recruitment position, I then found a position at a main contractor called BAM, and I worked in their marketing and comms team. BAM are a corporate patron company of Crash charity. So they, through that corporate patronage, they advertised a secondment opportunity to go over to Crash for a year to lead up on their communications and as a fundraising assistant. So I applied for that, got that, and I never went back. I decided to stay. I just loved the work that Crash does and the social impact that we can help the whole industry deliver is amazing, and I just couldn't leave that behind. So that's where I am.
Did you have any first thoughts before you started in the construction industry before you went to Crash? What did you think the industry was like?
At first I felt it was maybe quite dated, especially working in marketing and communications, the things that we were doing, but also that it was just an amazing industry. I really liked that at BAM, a lot of the senior leadership team, they'd all started as apprentices in that company and worked their way up. I really liked that, from my experience, I found really down-to-earth people who are really highly skilled and they've got amazing skills to give, and then to be able to use those skills for the good. I've found that all of our volunteers and people have found that really rewarding. So I was really keen to go into the sort of social impacts, social value side of construction, because I just know how much the sector has to give and how much the people will get from that, but also how much of a difference they can make to.
Okay, and that leads me on quite nicely to what kind of projects that Crash get involved in. Can you explain some of the projects that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work with homelessness organisations and hospices. We added hospices to our remit in 2015, and that was because if you think about those two charitable sectors, they both rely heavily on their buildings. So what Crash does is we help a charity to make informed decisions about the construction or refurbishment project that they want to go ahead with. So I could maybe give some examples of some of the projects we're working with or have worked with. So we're working with a hospice called St Giles Hospice in Lichfield, Trent Valley, so not far from Birmingham. And we're working with this hospice to, so their current heating system is 40 years old. So as you can imagine, it's quite costly, it's not very economic, and it doesn't always work as well as it should. So we're working with this hospice to review their heating system, what parts need to be replaced or just a whole sort of new one. So that's amazing. And I mean, I'm sure you're aware, hospices have been really hit by the cost of living crisis, and they're just the amount it costs to run a hospice is huge. So for us to be able to channel those savings back into the hospice through our expertise, but also providing them savings in the long run through their sort of new heating system that's more cost efficient is amazing. And then I guess another one, so that was a hospice example. An example we have in the homelessness sector, we work right across the UK. So from one day we could be in Cornwall, the next we could be up north in Bolton, for example. But we work with a charity called Emmaus, and they're a homelessness organisation, and it's amazing what they do. They have, I think it might be 30 communities across the UK, and they believe they give everyone the chance to have a home, the opportunity to gain skills and experience in their social enterprises, and obviously support to eventually leave Emmaus when the time comes, if they feel that's right, because they can stay for as long as they want. So we've worked with many of the separate organisations, but one that is close to my heart, I guess, is Emmaus Hertfordshire, because one of their shops is just a 5-minute walk from my house, and their hostel, their 29-bed accommodation building, is just a 15-minute drive away from me. But that building it's a 1960s old nursing home, and it's got all the original windows, all the original radiators. It really needs a bit of a refresh. So we've worked with them before. We gave them a new roof last year with the help of our corporate patrons. But they've now had a PPM survey to highlight what they need to do next. So this planned preventative maintenance survey, one of the things it highlighted was windows. It's got all the original windows that obviously they're not keeping the heat in the building, they're not working as well as they should, they're kind of past their sell-by date as such. So we'll be working with that charity to see what ones need replacing, what ones we could potentially fix or add some glazing to. That's one of our current projects, and that's something that we would seek help from the sector.
Okay. And how many projects do you think, obviously it's hard to tell year from year, but how many projects do you think you'll be working on this year, for example?
Well, at the moment, now this was the biggest sort of, I think, misconception about Crash, because when I first came to Crash, I thought we would be maybe doing 4 or 5 projects at one time. But we currently have 33 live projects, which is something we're all really proud of. We're a small team as well, but that's only possible thanks to the industry that supports us and helps us. But it's important to note, obviously we're working with charities, so these charities might be almost like a sleeping project because they need to secure funding to kickstart it. And quite often we do our work in phases, again, for the funding reasons. So that's why our help is important, because we can obviously give them the best quality products and building for the best price. And we can also offer cash grants to projects we're working with that might help kickstart a project.
Okay. And obviously you said that one of the reasons why you came to Crash in the first place is seeing what happens there. How does it feel once you see a project that's been completed? How does it feel to you personally, know that you've had a hand in making it real?
Yeah, it does feel amazing. I mean, one example that I can think of, and there's a charity that we've been working with at Crash for 18 years, possibly more than that. And that's a homelessness charity in South London called Kairos Community Trust. And they help formerly homeless people with addiction issues. And they offer abstinence support, they offer therapy, counselling, and they have move-on accommodation all across London. And this charity, I visit their sort of main hub where they have their communal dining area, and it's just amazing that you step in there and the love that you feel in the room, and you feel so welcome. It's just incredible, and the things these people have been through, but just to have so much gratitude to Crash, because they understand what we've done, what we've helped refurbish at that building or at their move-on accommodation. And it's just amazing. So it really does get channeled down to the people who receive these charities' support, which is lovely.
Yeah, and how important is it that you actually promote these projects to the wider industry? Is it something that is easy to actually get out into the masses of the construction industry, or is it sometimes they're quite small projects, so you have to sort of push it quite hard?
Yeah, well, I'm the communications manager, so that it definitely can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Just like any organisation or any company, you want to share your news far and wide, and that's what we try and do here. We try and put a lot on LinkedIn, but the main important thing for me, I think, is telling the construction sector all these amazing things that they're doing, because we only exist thanks to them. We were founded and we're sustained by the industry. So to be able to tell them all these amazing things that they're doing, but also the amazing things that they can do thanks to Crash. So we can utilize their professional expertise and their products. So you can give more than just your cash donations to Crash. We're after your expertise, and to be able to help a charity in that way when you're doing this as your day job anyway is it's remarkable, really.
Yeah, and how would companies go about getting involved on any sort of level? How would they just approach Crash and say, we've possibly heard this podcast and we want to get involved? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so like everything, it will start with a conversation. So I mentioned our corporate patron companies, and they underpin every single project we deliver. They make an annual donation to the charity. And so we currently have 34 corporate patron companies, and they stem from your main contractors to your manufacturers, your products, your consultancies, and they really help us deliver our projects. So we would first approach a charity can apply to us. Our application process is open all year round. And then once we visit them, we do the full due diligence and background checks on the charity. We decide we can help. And that's when we reach out to our network of corporate patrons to see if they are able to help.
And is there any sort of companies within our sector, in the glazing sector, that have helped or are helping on projects this year?
Yes. Thinking of Kairos Community Trust again, who I just mentioned, a company called Glazing Vision. They donated a roof light to that project, and it sits right in their kitchen area of one of their houses that we put a big extension on. And our extension added it reconfigured the kitchen and added a counselling room, and it just makes the space so bright and airy. I mean, it's in South London in a terrace street. It's not got that much accessible light, so to have that that roof light is amazing for that building and that room. So that was one of them.
Okay. And I mean, it goes without saying, but how integral are the companies, your patrons and construction companies in general for these projects? Obviously, I guess you couldn't do it without them, but how much do they help out in everything that you do?
Yeah, we simply wouldn't exist without them. We were founded by a man called Tony Dennison from the construction industry back in, we were registered as a charity in 1996. We were doing some work before that. But yeah, our whole ethos and everything stemmed from that, and it stemmed from what the industry has to give, the expertise and the skills. It really is credible and amazing, and we transform that and turn that into these lasting, caring, creative spaces for homelessness charities and hospices. And we really wouldn't be able to do that without the industry. Our job is just we're the middle person. We speak to the charities. We harness the industry support, and we combine those together to create those amazing spaces.
And on a personal bit, can you believe how the glazing sector is exactly the same, with lots of companies that are willing to put time, effort, and more importantly, money into charity things and events and whatnot? Like, can you personally believe how generous the construction industry is, and whenever you need something, they're on hand to give it to you?
I think it surprises you every time. It really does. And just the different ways that people get involved as well. I think of like some of the strange requests that I've asked companies for in the past. Like, for example, at Christmas time, we have our Robin mascot, Rocky Robin. And I reached out to a PPE provider and just on a whim said, do you think you could create a hard hat for this robin? And they went away a few emails later. They had engineered and 3D printed a robin-sized hard hat, and this must have been about this big. And it was amazing. They sent us a full story of our Rocky Robin in the workshop, choosing the colour, choosing the model helmet that they wanted, and just that, for example, is just an amazing way to get involved. And the support we have so much different support on varying levels. We have individual support from our brilliant fundraisers who take on these incredible challenges, and we've got our company support from companies that set up company-wide fundraisers and donate their staff's time to help us.
Okay, and that leads on quite nicely to some of the fundraisers. Like on your website, you can see that there's a lot of stuff that you can do throughout the year. Can you give us an idea of some of the fundraisers that are happening this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, they're all on our website. So take a look on there. But we do have, off the top of my head, for the cyclists who might be listening, we have places in Ride London, cycling from London to Essex, back to London, a 100-mile cycle. So it's not easy.
Not for the faint-hearted.
No, but we have got a team crash in that one, and that's a great event. We also have the Construction Industry Dragon Boat Challenge, and that's in partnership with Building Magazine and a company called New Wave Events. And that's just a brilliant team building and fun day on the water. There's a barbecue and fundraising, sort of a charity raffle and things involved as well, so it's a good one. And then I guess one of my favourites is the Big March, and that's something we push in March. It's a step challenge where we encourage people to walk 10,000 steps every day in March. And it's great because you get people sharing their videos, sharing their pictures with you. We take part as well as a team at Crash. And it's just really nice. You get people, having competitions in their office. It strikes conversation and things. One of our patrons who got involved last year, they did, to clock up their steps, they did a walking tour with some of their clients, and they just visited the projects that they'd been involved in the city and did a nice walk. So that's a nice way to tie it in with what you're doing. They're all the crash-led sort of fundraisers, but we also have people put on that. We call them DIY fundraisers, so you do it yourself fundraisers, and that could be anything like tagging us on to a golf day that you might already have planned, or one of my favourites was called an on mute fundraiser, and that's one of our corporate patrons, and they've just set up a Just Giving page, and every time somebody leaves themselves on mute on Teams or on Zoom, they make a donation to Crash, and I think that's just such a fun one, a bit of office banter. And I think if it was going while we were sort of in the midst of the pandemic, we would raise thousands in donations, but that's a good one. So it really is creative.
And you say about DIY, can people in the glazing sector set up their own ones and use Crash as the charity they want to donate to? Like, how would that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We would be really grateful if people wanted to do that. And it's easy. If you wanted to speak to one of the team to set that up, we're always on hand to have conversations and decide how it might best work to fit in around your event. We're only a small team of 5, so we like to get to know people personally who are fundraising for us. So if you reach out to through the Crash website, your chances are 1 out of 5 times you'll get through to me. We would really encourage that. It's easy to take part, and you could really add a fundraising twist to anything.
Okay, and going on to talk about PiGs. Obviously, we're on a PiGs podcast. A main part of our events is the actual events all over the UK. So if you could take PiGs to one city or it could be anywhere in the world, where do you think you would take it? Where someone you enjoy going to?
Okay. So I get to go, do I?
Yeah, you're absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah, you're the leader. You're leading us there.
Okay. Well, I'll probably in that case choose somewhere I haven't been before. Okay. So I'd go with Australia, maybe Sydney
Yeah.
or Melbourne or something like that.
Okay. And if you was in my shoes and you was hosting the podcast, it doesn't have to be someone in the industry, or you can have someone in the industry. But if you was the host of a podcast, who would be your dream guest?
My dream guest, I think I'd probably choose the rugby player Johnny May.
Okay.
I recently listened to a podcast he did, The Good, the Bad and the Rugby, and I honestly thought he was hilarious. So I'd have him on my podcast.
Okay. And is there anyone in the industry that you've had a chat with before? Maybe someone else that crashed that you'd like to interrogate a bit more to find out a bit more about them? Is there anyone that you can think of off the top of your head?
I wouldn't say interrogate. I'd feel a bit mean doing that. Our chief executive is amazing. She's worked in the charitable sector most of her life, but she's been at Crash for 16 years.
Okay.
And what she's given to the construction industry and the charitable sector is amazing. So she's a really interesting person to talk to. But also what's interesting about... Can I have tea?
Of course, you can have a, yeah.
Okay, our projects manager role, so like I said, I joined Crash as a secondment to start with. Our projects manager role is seconded to us. So at the moment, our projects manager is from one of our corporate patrons, ACOM. He's an engineer, mechanical and electrical engineer from there. So, and he's worked on some fabulous projects, worldwide. So I think he'd
have some good stories.
Yeah, he'd be an interesting person to talk to. And also he is... a great example of using your professional expertise and your skills for good on his secondment.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much for that. We're going to go into a bit of a quick fire question round, so we just want to get to know our guests on a bit more personal basis. They're nothing too heavy, so yeah, just we don't want you to think about it too long. Just the first thing that comes to your head. So yeah, I'll fire away with some questions. Do you prefer talking over email or by phone?
By phone.
Okay. And what's your favourite day of the week?
Oh, Saturday.
Okay. And what would be your favourite thing to do outside of work?
Favourite thing to do outside of work? I'm just typical. I just like going out and going for a drink with my friends, going for a coffee, a bit of cake. Yeah.
Sounds good. And what would be your karaoke song?
Anastasia, Left Outside Alone.
Nice. That's a hard song to sing.
Oh, I'm very good at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And leads quite nicely on to another music question. What's the first gig you ever attended?
Oh, I wish it was someone cool.
It doesn't. That's why we don't prepare you, because we want it to be your actual first.
Unfortunately, it was Take That.
That's not
I know.
too bad.
I know. They're my dad's favourite, so hence why I got a ticket.
Okay. What time of day do you think you're most in the zone? Are you sort of a lark? Are you in the morning person, or do you reckon you do your best work in the evening or even in the afternoon?
Definitely a morning person. I'm normally up a couple of hours before we start work. So once we start, because I commute in and everything, I'm definitely a morning person.
And what do you see yourself doing in 5 years' time?
Oh, who knows?
Trip to Australia by the time.
Yeah. I'd definitely like to establish more sort of communications from Crash in the industry. I like that maybe this won't be my first podcast. That I think they're a great way to speak to people and get people's opinions and views and talk about subjects. So I like the idea of trialing different ways of communication now. Okay.
And obviously this is for construction in general, but obviously we've gone through quite a few tough years, generally speaking, but do you think the industry in a year's time will be better? Do you think it's looking like it's on an upward trajectory, or do you reckon we will be about the same, or maybe potentially even worse from what you see from your side?
It is hard to say. I am an optimist, so I definitely wouldn't want to say it would get worse. It's sad sometimes, especially recently you see new companies going into administration every day. But I think that if anyone can get through it, it's the people of the construction industry. So I think we ride the wave. And I'd like to think, yeah.
Nice. Well, as a sort of last thing is we want to give our guests the chance to shout out someone. It can be someone from the industry, it can be your mum, your dad, it can be whoever you want. So yeah, please fire away straight down the camera into who you want to shout out.
Can I have 5?
You're more than welcome.
In that case, I will shout out the Crash team. I think as a small team, we really we delve into everything. We do a bit of everything, and we really help each other out. And I guess I should add my dad in there, Richard Miller. He's in the industry too, so I think he'd be offended if I didn't add him in.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for your time
Thank
and
you.
coming on to the podcast. And yeah, I really enjoyed talking to you and learning a bit more about what Crash does. So that's it for today. I hope you can join us for another episode soon. And to remember to head to the PiGs website at www.peopleinglazing.co.uk to find out when the next PiGs networking event is, and for all your glazing and fenestration news. And whilst you're there, you can also sign up to our new bi-weekly newsletter, aptly named Style News. Goodbye and see you again soon.